Well, Anthony Albanese is expected to take a strict approach on trade during his visit to China this weekend. It's the first trip by an Australian Prime Minister since 2016. Joining us live now, former US Ambassador, former Treasurer and now President and founder of Bondi Partners, Joe Hockey. Joe, good to see you. Thanks for your time this morning, afternoon, where you are. I'll get to the Middle East in a moment, but I'll start off with China. Realistically, what would you expect comes out of the PM's trip to China this weekend?
Well, hopefully a stabilisation of the relationship, Peter. It's been fraught over a number of years now, and that hasn't been the fault of any Australian government. It's been a decision made by the Chinese government. And I would hope that Anthony Albanese can stabilise the relationship and therefore create a platform to improve it over the next few years.
Stabilisation, not normalisation. Is that about as good as we can expect or hope for moving forward?
It is, because China has become incredibly aggressive over the last few years in our region and around the world. And as part of that aggression, they have certainly at times threatened our national security and our national interests. And rightly, Australia, under both the Liberal government and Labor, has stood up to China. We can't be bullied. We haven't been bullied by China. Now there is a thawing that has come about for a number of reasons. But one of them is that China realises that going down the bullying path doesn't work with Australia. So it's not about normalising relationship, because I was there when we signed a free trade agreement with China just a few years ago. Made regular trips to China as Treasurer and worked closely with the Chinese government. But at the moment, the best we could hope for is some form of stabilisation.
So what traps can we look out for moving forward, lessons from the past?
Well, the starting point will be that China will try and push us to distance ourselves from our closest ally, the United States. They'll be looking for more room to move in the Indo-Pacific region without us expressing views that might disagree with their policies. And I'm absolutely sure that when Anthony Albanese raises human rights issues, that China will take some umbrage at that. But he'll be following the path of previous Australian Prime Ministers, and that is not to wilt under the pressure and intimidation of a massive economy that is also, at the same time, by far our biggest trading partner.
Still overseas, just on the Middle East and in particular Israel now, what have you made of the Prime Minister's approach to it over the past few weeks?
Well, it's a very difficult road. Australia has been traditionally very supportive, but also realistic about its relationship with Israel. Here I am in Washington, D.C., and I can say to you that I am stunned at the level of anti-Semitism that has arisen here in the United States. And in fact, just talking with diplomats from around the world, there's been an increase in the level of anti-Semitism that I've never seen in my lifetime. And it's very hard to get the balance right when it comes to the Middle East. You can understand Israel's response totally, just as the United States responded to both Pearl Harbor and responded to 9/11 and aggressively. When Israel responds after a horrendous attack on its people, I've been surprised at the level of anxiety. Of course, and let me emphasise this, and as someone who is half Palestinian, I can say to you, everyone is aggrieved. Everyone must be aggrieved at the loss of life in Gaza, but equally aggrieved at the unsolicited attacks on Israeli families at the same time in October. So there is no good outcome here, and there's no good path forward. But, one of the things that must come out of this is a preservation of the Abraham Accords. And at the same time, the Palestinian issue cannot become an issue for everyone else. who chooses whether they participate or not. It is an issue for everyone in the world who wants peace in the Middle East. It just can't be palmed off to the United States or to Israel or to any one country. Everyone has to step up and help find a solution for the Palestinian people.
And just finally, before you go, Joe, as a former treasurer, the government says its policies have put downward pressure on our economy. That's despite inflation that's still high and a near lock on another rate rise next week. Climate targets are getting more and more unlikely. As a former treasurer, how would you rate the current efforts to tackle cost of living here in Australia?
Well, it is now very much driven by domestic issues. It's not an international issue as it was a few months ago. I would caution the Reserve Bank very, very carefully but emphatically about increasing rates next week. In Australia, most people do have variable home loan rates. And unlike here in the United States and many other countries where most people have fixed rates, because rates move in Australia, they go straight through to the household budget. And it would be extremely unwise in this current environment for the Reserve Bank to overreach, which could put a dramatic handbrake, not only on the Australian economy, but inevitably higher interest rates lead to higher unemployment. And whether it be the debate here this week with the Federal Reserve or any other debate, if the Reserve Bank goes ahead and increases interest rates, it will have an impact on employment. And of course, it will slow the economy. And I think the economy is too fragile at the moment to be able to withstand more interest rate increases.
Joe Hockey, as always, good to chat to you.